Chris Barker, a teammate, a friend, a colleague, an opponent, sadly passed away on January the 1st, 2020. Awful circumstances, really. Just a difficult time for everybody, but thoughts for myself and obviously from everybody from this show is with Chris's friends and family. It's such a sad time. I just hope that he's looking down and seeing that everyone is loving that every minute that he spent at all his other clubs, not just at Cardiff City, but everything he's done in football, because he was a much loved person and colleague for everyone who he's worked closely with.
And welcome to episode number 22 of the Andy Campbell Championship Show, only on ACEcast Nation. I'm your host, Si, and I'll be joined by ex-Premier League and Championship striker, Cardiff City legend, and Mr. Andy Campbell. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, thank you. New year. Show's growing by the second, and we're getting a lot of interactions with people, which is great. But yeah, looking forward to the show. But it's going to be a little bit different. But yeah,
it's a weird one. It's been obviously a difficult week, particularly for Cardiff fans, football fans, and obviously for you and former teammates Chris Barker. It's not been the start to the year which would have been expecting or wanted.
Yeah.
So just as a mark of respect, really, to Chris, we're going to do things slightly different with the show today. We're not going to be having as many plugs and sponsorships and stuff. We're not going to do any other business. We're going to talk a little bit about Chris, pay tribute to him, read out a few tweets which were kind of put out over the last couple of days, and then we'll get into the footy and the FA Cup games, which I think is the best way to kind of pay tribute. Is just is to do what we do and talk about football and get into that side of it. I was just going to add, rather than doing the usual sponsor from Away Day Apparel, I was going to say, if anyone's kind of struggling with anything or feeling things getting on top of them, or they are feeling like they're struggling, a good website and charity to contact and to read and get help and advice from is mind.org, where you can get a lot of advice and stuff. And also the DMs for the show are always open, and I'm always up for a chat with people if they so feel fit. So yeah, obviously New Year's Day, the kind of the news broke that Chris had passed away and stuff.
Yeah.
So what I was going to just quickly do before we kind of get into the football was read some of the tweets, because some of the tweets which struck me, obviously, like yourself and some of the other Cardiff City players, you kind of like you understand and you can feel the pain and stuff where people are talking about it and they're saying how they're feeling. And then there's other guys who I was less familiar with from lower league clubs who had spoken about the amount of stuff that Chris had done for them. There was I'm just trying to find it now. There was one player in particular who he had said, Chris had actually taken him in where he was struggling to settle at a club.
That was a lad who plays for Brighton now. centre half for Brighton. I seen it, and he said that he helped him out. Was it Aldershot helped him out at Aldershot, and they helped him settle in, and then look at he playing the Premier League now, and it's such. Do you know what? And I know probably cliches that people probably say that you say positive things when people die and things, but I didn't have a bad word to say about Chris. You know what I mean? I got on with him really well because he was a northern boy. You know what I mean? Born in Sheffield and similar age to me. You know what I mean? A year younger than I was. When he came from Barnsley, I knew him. I played against him. So it was very easy for him to settle in because he lived near me. We socialised together. Just because we were just two northern boys, and you know what I mean. We got on really well. We knew the same people. I knew his brother and things. So it made things a little bit easier for him to settle in. And you know what I mean. I was glad for that, especially the way that things have panned out now. It makes it even more special. But you know what I mean. Always had a good relationship with him. Cracking little player and had a really good career. And it's just such a sad way to end a life, really.
I saw Peter Ramage, who used to play for Newcastle, and I think Barnsley as well.
Yeah, he did.
He said something similar where he was struggling to settle, and Chris had helped him, settle in and become accustomed. I think he was a bit homesick. I would assume from when he moved from Newcastle, because I think he came through the Newcastle Academy.
Yeah, he did.
So I think it says a lot about just the type of guy that he was. That he was really going out of his way to help kind of teammates, particularly younger teammates, by the sounds of it, who were perhaps struggling to adapt to new teams or new cities.
Yeah, but we all have tough times. There, I had tough times at Cardiff, and I wouldn't probably call it homesick. I'd probably call it, you know what I mean, when you're not playing and you're a little bit peed off, and then you think about home a little bit. You want to go back, and you know what I mean. He's the first to say, "Come on, we'll go for a pint." You know what I mean, and then you repay the favour when Chris is down in his dumps. You know what I mean, and other players are, and you know what I mean. It was life and soul, and always wanted to socialised, and you know what I mean, and you know what I mean, but nothing got in the way of his football, which is his job first and foremost. I mean, which showed the professionalism of the lad. You know what I mean, 670 appearances professionally. You know what I mean, that says it all. Yeah, you know, so you know what I mean. It's a lot. You know what I mean. I think he was quite lucky with injuries, and I think that shows because you know what I mean. To play that many games is solid. You know, because he was he had to look after himself, you know, because he was quite a big bone sort of player, and you know what I mean, quite an aggressive kind of lad. So is it on the football pitch? So you know what I mean. He's done excellent to get that many numbers of games. But yeah, he was loved by people, and you see that by people. He's helped by certain tweets and messages and things, and rightly so. And that's the biggest shame for me, that he's not here to read what people think about him, and maybe that might be a different story. You just never know.
Yeah. Did who came to Cardiff first? Were you there first, or did
I was there?
Come first?
Yeah, I was there.
I was going to say, like, for Cardiff, I think he was really underrated because I was thinking about it, like, over the last couple of days a lot. Like, very rarely did he have a bad game for Cardiff.
No.
You know, he was always like a 7, 6, 7, 8 out of 10 every week, and he played like I think I looked the other day. I think it was like 300 games for Cardiff.
Yeah, I think it probably opened people's eyes. There was you know, quite a lot of pressure on him to play because you know what I mean. He's basically taken Leggy's position. You know what I mean, and Leggy was an absolute legend at the club, hero at the club, and you know what I mean. So to make that position his own, you know what I mean. He had Gary Croft to battle it out with as well, and you know what I mean. So there was a lot of people to fight positions with. So to play that many games under a lot of pressure in the city, with the club going places, you know what I mean. It shows how good a player he was, and you know, I mean, I wouldn't say, not for me, but underrated for. I think a lot of people probably underrated him as from supporters' point of view, but from inside the house, you know what I mean. I knew how good he was. I seen him train every day. You know what I mean. I seen how professional he was. It was his job. It was his passion. He loved it, and he's been involved in football since he packed in playing. You know what I mean. So it's he fully deserved all the accolades that he's getting now.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We toyed with the idea of changing the name of the show. Obviously, like me and you
Yeah.
know this because we discussed it. We were going to change the name of the show to the Chris Barker Show this week, as a tribute to Chris. But what we didn't want is we didn't want people to think that we were sort of being disrespectful or trying to kind of take advantage of it or anything like that. So we decided against it, and we just wanted to, obviously, before we get into the football and all that type of stuff, wanted to talk about Chris a little bit. And obviously, he leaves behind a family, a brother and daughters, and it's just a kind of tragic situation all round.
Yeah.
And obviously, like you said at the start of the show, is all our thoughts and love and hope. It goes to to those guys who are going to be dealing with it, for a long time to come.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll also leave the links to minds.org and a couple of other charities in the description for the episode and stuff like that. Obviously, it was FA Cup weekend, so obviously this is predominantly a championship podcast. We cover a little bit of stuff outside of the championship stuff as well with the any other business. We were kind of toying with the idea of what to do with the games this week, because obviously there's basically, I think, like 15 championship games or championship teams playing in FA Cup games, and we decided if we covered all of them, we'd be doing an even longer show than we already do. So I think we picked 6 each, wasn't it? And
we did. Yeah,
we chucked them up in the poll, let the people pick, and as usual, they picked Cardiff. I'm sure that more people seem to vote for Cardiff when they play badly
when something negative's happening in the game. Yeah.
Well, I put out an interesting poll because I was speaking to my mate Damien, shout out to him, about Neil Harris, because both me and him didn't really want Neil Harris to get the job.
Yeah.
And he's been quite outspoken about it ever since he got it. And you're kind of just in this weird situation where you just got to kind of get behind him because you want the club to do well, but you just got this. It's not. I don't want to say it like a bad taste in your mouth, but you just feel like it's the wrong appointment. So you, at the back of your mind is always there that he shouldn't really be the manager, or he wasn't the right person. So I put a poll out asking Cardiff fans, because it's been very bad, the last couple of weeks. Even when they've played, even when they've won games, they haven't been very good. And that's the kind of thing for me, is even the games they've won or they've not lost, they've not been great, which is a big issue, because if you're playing well and then when you don't play well, you're scraping out results. All right. You just got to get the points on the board at this stage, especially over Christmas when you're playing so many games. So I asked Cardiff fans if they were, comfortable or happy with Neil Harris. I said, I'll tell you what I would. I said, are you still behind Neil Harris? Or should the club make a preemptive strike and sack him before it's too late? Have your say, let us know. And then the choices were, yes, go before it's too late. No, let him settle. Should never have got the job. And be patient and just support the club. Which one do you think won, if you haven't seen it?
I have seen it. I voted.
Right, okay. So, should never have got the job, got 38.9%.
Yeah.
Which kind of says a lot. Although the next sort of in the voting was be patient and support the club.
Well, I was torn side between the two, because I think the club's put unnecessary pressure on himself by making that kind of appointment. I think Neil's put unnecessary pressure on himself this last week with the QPR game debacle down at Loftus Road, and then on Saturday, and I'm going to talk about later on about the bigger picture. But he's got 7 days before the Swansea game. Yes, it's a big game, of course it is. But you want to go into the game full of confidence. You're not going into that game full of any confidence after being battered at QPR and drawing at home 2-2 against against a struggling League Two side. You know what I mean? So when he decided that he was going to pick his side, you know what I mean? That I don't know. My thought process is what went through his head when he's picking the team. You know what I mean? Did he intentionally pick a weakened side? Did he want to get Sol Bamba minutes? Did he want to get Smithies some more minutes? You know what I mean? I was quite glad that he put in Cameron Cox, because I think he deserves to play. It's the second game he played against Luton in the cup. You know what I mean? He's been training with the first team. I speak to his dad quite regular about things, but why make a team weaker? You know what I mean? If you want to put a youngster inside, you know what I mean? And I made my debut when I was 16, but I didn't make my debut when I was 16 in a weakened side. I made my debut as a 16-year-old with the best possible other team, so it made it easy for me to fit in, because you know what I mean. If I wasn't playing very well, the rest of the lads would get me going and drag me through the game. You know what I mean. Whereas if the person next to me is unfit or hasn't played and is not match fitness or match sharp, then I'm having to do a lot more than I'm wanting to do. You know what I mean. So it's I do find it a little bit strange, a little bit difficult. You know what I mean, because I want us to win next Saturday. I do think performance will be irrelevant. It's all about results next week in the big derby. But you've got more chance of going into the game and getting something out of it if you're going into it confident and after on the back of something positive. And you know what I mean. I don't see any positivity after being 2-0 down and coming back and drawing 2-2. You know what I mean? Because the positivity could have been, let's get knocked out of the cup and we focus on the league to try and get in the playoffs. That could have been a positive swing on it. You know what I mean? You know, so it depends how you look at it. You know what I mean? I look at some of the Premier League sides who bowed out of the cup. They didn't want to be in the cup. It's simple. By team selection, they did not want to be in the cup, and they didn't want to. They might as well not. They might as well not have interested. They weren't interested one little bit, and you know, I mean, that was my concern with Cardiff. How important is the cup? You know what I mean? It was important when they got the FA Cup final against Portsmouth. You know what I mean? So it's for me. It's important every single year. It's the best cup competition around, and should be taken a lot more serious by every club. Never mind just Cardiff City.
Yeah, I would have preferred to see him play a couple of youngsters and then 8 first team players with Smithies in goal. You've got to give Smithies game time, regardless of what you think of him as a keeper. When you've got 2 championship level keepers in your squad,
he didn't do anything wrong side, did he? To be dropped, you know what I mean? He just wasn't number one, and he probably didn't do anything to get a game apart from being fit at the time. So you know what I mean? It was you've got to try and keep players happy, and I get why they do that. I get the squad rotation. I get why managers do things. It's just, I agree with what you say there. I'd rather see a couple of youngsters blooded with some solid, experienced, fit players who aren't just getting minutes to try and show that they want to fight for the place. You know what I mean? Because he put a few lads in who haven't played quite regularly at the minute, and you know what I mean.
They weren't great.
No, and then you've got a couple of lads who won't have played for 2 weeks since the QPR game, and as a player side, if that's your last game, you're going into the Swansea derby game a little bit nervous and a little bit worried that that's the last game you played. You weren't very good. You shipped 6 goals in. You know what I mean? So it's a difficult one to get your head around sometimes. Sometimes you just got to go. I wasn't going to play the best team, but after what happened at QPR, I've got to do it now. You know what I mean? I've got to just come out and say it. Just come out and say it now.
Well, you look at Sol Bamba in particular. He came on as sub for the game before the QPR game. Did quite well, and everyone was calling for him to be back on the side. He's been back in the side, and they've shipped 8 goals in 2 games.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming his confidence is not going to be. You know, I'm not blaming him, but I'm just saying, you know, he's come back into the side. That's coincided with that. I think it's got a lot more to do with the way the team's set up rather than the personnel.
I totally agree.
Although, you know, obviously Neil Harris can only pick what he's got. And I will say that, and there's players in that squad who have not done enough this year, all year. But equally, the way it's set up doesn't suit the better players in the team, the
Mm.
more flair players in the team are not getting enough of the ball to their feet. It's, but like, I'm not surprised by the tactics that Neil Harris is playing, because I've watched him be manager of Millwall and then get sacked by Millwall because it's the same tactics.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good enough for Millwall. So whoever made that decision, that's what got, that's what, sorry, choking. That's what, one of the reasons I was against him as manager was he got sacked from Millwall, not last year or the year before, like this season, he got sacked from Millwall. And one of the reasons that they sacked him was because of the type of football that he's playing.
Yeah.
Now, with all due respect to Millwall, they've been fantastic since Rowett took over, and they're playing some great football. In irony, but they're not Cardiff City in terms of the size of the club. What's expected of them, what was expected at the start of the season between those two clubs is vastly different, both on the pitch and in terms of targets. I don't think you could sack him, because what is it? He's been in the job probably a month or something.
Yeah, and to fair results, his results have been quite positive. You know what I mean? But it's the expectation for me, Si. I think what I mean. The club have made the bed basically, and the fans have to lie in it and just get on with it. And I think that's the unfairness that, I don't know. It's when you hear certain managers and certain names linked, you get yourself all excited. You think the club's going in this direction or that direction for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons, and then all of a sudden you see somebody who's probably been playing a less positive football than the previous manager, then the club's only going to carry on doing what they were doing, and it's so disheartening. I think that was my issue. That, you know what I mean, I was so excited to see all these names branded about, and people who've gone for it. Yeah, the freshness. I look at Lee Boyer, and like you said there, that. You know what I mean? Lee's
different,
but he's struggling a little bit now at his club, and he's probably pushed them a little bit as far as he could go on, and he probably needed that change to push his own career and push another club forward. And you know what I mean, or a Chris Hughton or some. You know what I mean? There was loads of people out there who.
There was choices, wasn't there?
There was, but the club's made it, Si, and like I said earlier, there's so much pressure now building and built for the weekend. It's absolutely scary because of the performance levels in the last derby. What happened to QPR? What happened last Saturday? You know what I mean? And the gap between the playoffs and Cardiff City currently. You know what I mean? The pressure on Saturday is absolutely massive, regardless of the derby game. It's gotten ridiculous, and you know what I mean. It's not even a must win. It's probably more than that now. It's probably must win, must perform, must entertain, must probably beat them comfortably by 2 or 3 to get something in the bag.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the other thing, which is brewing, getting louder in the background, is that I've seen a lot of people on social media, Cardiff fans in particular, who think that Neil Harris was brought in because he was happy to have no money to spend. Now, if Cardiff don't sign anyone in January, I think that will be the camel which breaks the straw back.
The base of camel's back, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's what will push people over the edge, in that they'll think, well, it's just another case of like what Russell Slade was, who's just been brought in as the cheap option, who's going to work with no money. No, he's going to do as he's told, say what he's told. And I just think that's a bad way to go. But
every football club side's got to do this in probably the recent history. They've got to balance the books.
Of course.
Middlesbrough did it. And they pushed on and went to a different thing. Cardiff have done it, so they don't need to do it again. And this is everyone's frustration. This is your frustration. This is my frustration. This is probably 30 other thousand plus frustrations that we've all done it. So why do we need to do it again? We've just sampled the Premier League last season. You know what I mean? We all want to get back there because I think we all have the bugbear that we didn't give ourselves justice and we weren't treated correctly because of certain things what happened. So, but at the minute, we've got zero opportunity or zero chance to get back where we were with the football that's getting played currently.
Yeah, I'm not saying go and spend 10 million on a Velen Jonker or the other one who they signed the last time. I'm saying there's players around who you could sign for a couple of million who could make a huge difference to that squad.
No, 100%. Well, the side is if we as a club looked into the money we're still getting from parachute payments, we could probably buy the 3 best current Championship players for. You could probably, you know what I mean, at a push, you could probably get 15, 16 to 20 million, you know what I mean? And that would be an absolute, that would be a godsend, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying they are Championship players, because I do believe these kind of players that we've raved about all season, you know what I mean? The Premier League players, but they're playing the Championship, because that's just the way it is at the minute, you know what I mean? And they want to get out of there, but the only way to get out of there is either get sold to a Premier League team and risk not playing, or they play in a Championship side, get promoted and play there week in, week out.
So here's another discussion I had with someone this week, is that do you think Hull would take, say, 5 or 6 million plus Murphy or Mendes Lang for Jared Bowen?
100%, because what they can't do, they can't afford to sell Jared Bowen and be left with no player.
Yeah.
Because what happens with a club like Hull is teams will see, right, they've lost the best player. They're going to want to come in for one of our players, right? We'll put the price up, 1 million, 2 million, because they've got
10 million to spend or whatever it is.
They've got that money in the bank, you know. So it also frees wages up. It also gets somebody off the wage bill. You know what I mean? It's a no-brainer decision. You know what I mean? The player who goes the other way is more likely to play football if that's what they want to do. I hope it is. But it's something what's got to be done, side, because it's moving the club forward. You know what I mean? Like at the minute, like I look at Middlesbrough signed Patrick Roberts on loan. They signed another young lad from Man City on loan, centre forward, and that was a statement of intent for me. You know what I mean? Because going forward, because that is looking at young, hungry players, lads who want to play football, and Cardiff City needs to jump on board and not miss out on players. You know what I mean? We're on about the Nketiah gone back to Arsenal from Leeds United. You know what I mean? Put it all over Twitter. Loved his time at Leeds, but wasn't playing in the football. Well, there must be something in the pipeline. He's not going back to Arsenal to play. No way, unless he's playing tonight against Leeds in the FA Cup. That's, you know what I mean? Unless that was nailed on and that's going to be his last game, put him on this in the shop window. But he's going to go out on loan again to somebody, and it's probably going to be a Championship team. And who's it going to be?
Yeah, and it's frustrating, because if I can think of that deal for just Jared Bowen as an example, why isn't the club thinking, let's get rid of some players who are either A, not playing, B, not performing, or C, on decent wages and not playing or not performing? So why aren't the club thinking like along those lines? And my opinion is that they're not thinking along those lines because the people making the decisions about signings aren't football people. They're businessmen.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing. So if this decision, manager, is a stabilisation of the football club, then the stabilisation of the football club has got to be, they've got to cut the wage bill, they've got to get out all the lads who don't want to be there, get rid of the big earners, and start building the structure of the football club again. You know what I mean? So that means signing players, that means selling players, and it's got to start in January. Because if it doesn't start in January, well, when's it going to start? Because you're going to wait till the summer, surely. Please tell me not.
Someone tweeted me the other day that if Cardiff lose, say, 4 out of the next 5 games, they could be in a relegation battle. If the results go against them, you look at what Middlesbrough have done in the last couple of weeks.
Mate, we spoke, haven't we, about Middlesbrough, and you know how worried I've been about that football club and the way that football club's performed this month, or just over Christmas. They're safe as houses already. And
I'm going to be the hypocrite of the whole season by saying I've said all season that they should stick with Jonathan Woodgate. Every single week I've said it.
So glad they did.
And then I'm here now telling you that Cardiff City should get rid of Neil Harris. So it's like, but it's different situations. Jonathan Woodgate at Borough, young manager, wants to change the whole strategy around the way the team plays, the way that the clubs run, the way the teams run, the academy, the reserve team, or the under-23s, whatever you want to call it these days. He wants to change everything. He's a young manager. If you give him 5 years and you give him the power to change everything, yeah, he'll make mistakes. Yeah, he might get the occasional thumping, but he'll probably do it.
Yeah.
If they stick with him for the duration of the whatever the project is, 3 to 5 years. It's when you do it for a year. So, for instance, I had Phil Brown. I recorded a show with Phil Brown from Talk Sport yesterday. So it's out tonight on a Monday. And we talked about Man United a lot because he's a United fan. We also talked about football owners and businessmen. So he said that one of the biggest problems Man United have got is that they had David Moyes in for a year, then they get someone else in, and the project changes.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get someone else in, and then they get someone. They never stick with anyone long enough for them to finish the project because they don't know what they want to do. They don't know whether they want to spend a load of money and Mourinho just win trophies, or they want to give it to like a Solskjaer and bring in youth and accept that you're going to finish sixth and you might lose to Liverpool and Man City and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But you're bringing through youth and you're trying to sign British players and young players. But they've got to see it through. And I think
Totally
that's
agree.
the same with Borough. That's the same with Cardiff. They've got to decide what they're doing and see it through. Now, before we move on to the actual game, could you tell me, hand on heart, what you think Neil Harris's plans are for Cardiff City?
It's not evident, is it? It's not evident because he's never come out. He's never come out and said so. He's never come out and said that I want to go down this style of play. These are my intentions. You know what I mean? This is my expectations. This is what's going to happen this season. You know what I mean? It's never. No one's come out and said anything. And this is I think the problem that. You know what I mean? That fans are making their own expectations up.
Yeah.
Fans' expectations are up here, and at the minute the clubs are not matching where the fans expect the club to be, and rightly so because they're just being relegated from the Premier League side.
What are the clubs? What are the targets or what are their expectations for the season? Because they don't seem to be pushing for promotion. They haven't said they want to avoid relegation because that would be ridiculous. But they just seem to be content with not going down and maybe not going up either and just collecting the parachute payments.
Well, for me, Si, you've got to take a big hit for me. You've got to try and get back in the Premier League because the money there is ridiculous. You know what I mean? You've got to try and get there because if you don't get there and you've given it a go, then you're going to be hitting the playoffs, which is it achieves money. The attendances go up. People are, you know what I mean? That means you're winning games and the football club's growing in stature. But if you just stand still, you know what I mean? There's a chance that things could go south and it just doesn't work out. And you know what I mean? Players don't want to stand still. Players want to play for a progressive football club and push on their careers and things. And you know what I mean? You look at some of the teams who've been stuck in the Championship for so long, or teams who've been relegated like Sunderland and down to League One. You can't afford it to happen. You know, I said it about Middlesbrough. You know what I mean? The area can't have it. You know what I mean? Cardiff as a city can't. It can't happen. It just can't happen. But no team's good enough or big enough not to go down. You know what I mean? There's 3 teams going to get relegated this year, and I do believe that teams might be involved in a relegation scrap. Middlesbrough might lose the next 5 games. They'll be in and around there, but they won't go down because there's too many poor sides in this league for me at the minute for some of the big sides to go down. But next season, when there's 3 bigger sides come up from the Championship, there's down from the Prem. Sorry, there's 3 good sides come up from League One, big teams. It could be a Portsmouth, it could be a Sunderland. You know what I mean? These teams are going to splash the cash. These teams aren't going to be like a Luton, like a Barnsley. You know what I mean? These are going to be big sides. You know what I mean? There's the potential that the Championship next year could be absolutely ridiculous. And you know what I mean? It's going to get harder and harder each year. And you know what I mean? But teams, clubs, chairmen, owners need to be ready for it because supporters can't change the world. Supporters can only turn up week in, week out and support the team. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people are getting a little bit disheartened at the minute because, I'm a Middlesbrough fan. I want Middlesbrough to go and spend loads of money and get back up into in the top half of the Championship and get in the playoffs. But I know the club can't afford to do that, so they've got to go down the route of the way they're doing. But you accept it. You know what I mean? No one's come out and told us that's what's happening, but you're just guessing, so you just accept it because it's just the way it is. But you know what I mean? Cardiff has just come down from the Premier League, so for me, the expectation is still to get back up there, like it would be if I was a Fulham fan.
Yeah, I think. Do you think for that first season when you come down, absolutely you should take a risk, not recklessly spend money, but you've got to spend some money to accumulate and try and get up in that first season, because, like you say, the second season after you go down, you've got teams coming up, teams coming down, other teams who've got money to spend, big teams coming up from League One who've got bigger attendances and bigger, a bigger area and money to spend naturally from the money they bring in. So you can't afford to stand still. And just like you can't afford to stand still, you can't afford to lose 4 or 5 games in a short space of time, because you could go from 8th to 16th very quickly.
I think, as I say, you can't afford your season to be over in February. You know what I mean? No. Because supporters got one stand for it. You know what I mean? They've got nothing to look forward to. You know what I mean? You don't want to be going into games in February having to win to hope that you claw a playoff place at the end of the season. You know what I mean? You want to be going into games in and around the playoffs thinking, you know what I mean, if we lose today, we've still got a chance to get in the playoffs. Or, you know, if we win today, we're 6 points clear. You know what I mean? So we can rest a couple of players at the end of the season and have a good push in May. You know what I mean? It is what it is. It's just, you know what I mean? Football clubs just need to understand that we're all passionate, and it's not that we don't care. It's not that we don't care. It's we care too much. You know what I mean? Well, if that's possible, you know what I mean? But we care. We care because we love the area, we love the club, and the city needs a successful football club. And you know what I mean? That Cardiff hate seeing Swansea doing well. You know what I mean? Rightly so. You know what I mean? And Swansea will have loved Cardiff getting relegated last year. They'll have loved last Saturday when QPR battered them. They won't love this Sunday when QPR got their own back. But that's another story, isn't it? It is what it is. But we want a successful side like every city does and every town does.
Yeah. Absolutely, mate. I got to say, the Cardiff players look frustrated with the situation at the moment. So let's get into the games. So the first game, Cardiff 2, Carlisle 2. Just very, very quickly, just a quick question. Cardiff's attendance, FA Cup third round, 5,828.
Yeah, poor.
Is that worrying?
Massively, mate. Yeah, massively, because you know what I mean. You always know that Carlisle aren't going to bring a massive amount of fans down. You know what I mean? It was, you know what I mean. Carlisle obviously have to take responsibility for that as well, though, because Cardiff and Carlisle could come to an agreement to let kids in for free and pack it out, but
they didn't.
Carlisle get half the money. You know what I mean? So Carlisle will want to keep the prices exactly the same, so that
they were quite high, the prices.
You know what I mean? So it's something I don't agree with. That, you know what I mean? For me, it should have been, I don't know. If Carlisle had got beat, you know what I mean, the players will have wanted to play in a 20,000, 30,000 sellout. You know what I mean? But the way they look at it now is they've got themselves a replay. They might get themselves a TV game. You know what I mean? It might make them 70, 75 grand, 50 grand. You know what I mean? So I think they're absolutely delighted, but it could backfire on them. So you want to be very careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I got to say, Cardiff's defending in the first half was absolutely. It was not even League Two level. It was disgusting. I will say,
it's just the crosses. It's crosses side, and I think, you know what I mean. Balls come in the box and you're panicking with crosses, and it's smashing at things going in the air. You know what I mean? First balls, second balls. It was just laughable at times.
And they got 4 centre halves, right? So you got Bamba, Morrison, Nelson,
Flint,
and Flint. All of them are massive. All of them are good in the air. Yeah. You would say they're good championship or good football league headers of a ball, good defenders. Like, they're all quite physical, but none of them seem to be able to defend at the moment. Yeah. I will say, I thought that penalty was the most disgusting decision I've seen in a very long time.
It was, but
appalling.
it was never a penalty, but also it was clever play by Bridge.
Stick up for the striker.
Well, no, he saw an opportunity to throw himself at somebody who was a little bit stronger than him. You know what I mean? And I just thought. And now, and to be fair, VAR was at the game as well. So VAR, all the FA Cup games, every.
I thought it was only the Premier League games, Premier League home ties.
Oh, was it? I thought it was all of them.
Yeah, no, because
I might be wrong. Oh, that was.
I noticed that.
I thought they'd seen it.
Bambo was asking the referee to look at it, and the referee said no. It wasn't. It was only the Premier League teams, which I think is unfair.
What's the point of having it?
You either have it for all the games, don't you?
Well, you don't have it.
It's the same it's the same competition. So if you're going to say from the third round, you've got it for some games. You've got to have it for all those games. You cannot have it in one game and not in another.
Well, Oxford United could play at home every single game and get through because of a dodgy decision. You know, they didn't. They beat Hartlepool 4-1, but that could happen every game, and that's unfair.
Yeah, it's an unfair advantage, isn't it?
Whereas the Watford game, for example, there's 2 decisions of VAR, and they might then get themselves knocked out because of it.
Yeah, it was never a penalty. It was really poor.
Extremely soft. It was poor.
Good save for the penalty. I thought it was nice.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
but
then Bridge was also very brave to go and put his head in.
Yeah,
with a couple of big centre halves and a goalkeeper coming out to punch the ball as well. So you know what I mean. But Cardiff just didn't. You know what I mean. It was. I thought they struggled to get the ball out. I thought it was a second goal for me, Si. Morrison should have stopped the cross out wide. It was terrible defending, but great headed by McCurdy at the back stick to put it in. I thought
him.
It was Cameron Cox, wasn't it?
Yeah, see, he's the only player I won't slate because he's a youngster, but he probably should have done better for that.
Yeah. Really, to be fair though, from the position where the right winger was, the right winger should never get the ball where he was. So you know, not a cross like that. You know what I mean? It was just poor defending by an experienced player. Yeah,
and then you get the youngster who gets caught underneath it, and you know it's him who looks at fault when realistically he wasn't him who was at fault.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. But second half side is. Whatever we say about Neil Harris, he seems to be able to revitalise teams at half time, especially Cardiff, and get them going in the second half and get them going. I thought Sol was unlucky with the first shot with the crossbar. Probably should have scored, but Patterson was in there to get the rebound by hook or by crook. Somehow he got it in, but you know what I mean. It revitalises you, it gets you going, and I think after that, you know what I mean. I think Cardiff were always going to get back into it. I thought the header by White was absolutely fantastic. Great ball by Patterson again, but then you could look at it the other way that he shouldn't have got his cross in. But
yeah, I thought Patterson actually was excellent.
Yeah, he was superb. But you know what I mean. And I thought Gavin White as well. You know what I mean, comes in and gets himself a goal, and you know what I mean, coming off that right wing, and wingers need to bring goals to the game. You know what I mean. He doesn't score enough goals, probably Gav, but he does. He does a lot of things out wide, but if people are putting balls in like that, he's going to get more goals, isn't he? I suppose.
Yeah. So speak to me. Mendes Lang out for the season. Speak to me about Josh Murphy. 11 million he cost 18 months ago.
Yeah.
He looks devoid of confidence, to say the least.
Yeah, it's a tough one, Si, isn't it? Because he hasn't played for so long, and all of a sudden you're thrown back in. I'm not even going to say it's a confidence thing, because it's not. Because you know, if you're playing and you're starting the game, you should be full of confidence. You should be. You know what I mean? The manager decided to pick you for whatever reason. He decided to pick you because if you're in that team, then you're in that team for next Saturday as well. Because especially what's been going on the last couple of weeks, that you know, any decent performance on Saturday would have started you against Swansea.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? So for me, Patterson got to be the first name on the team sheet. Straight away against Swansea City. You know what I mean? I think the way he plays, his desire, his heart, his goal, his assist. You know what I mean? For me, he's a starter. You know what I mean? And from everyone's performance on Saturday, I don't think there's many who you could say has earned a definite start on Saturday against Swansea City. On Sunday from what you saw on Saturday against Carlisle United. So, you know what I mean? Josh Murphy, you know what I mean? Just flatters to deceive. You know that he wants the ball, but then doesn't get enough of it, or he doesn't want the ball, and he's giving the ball and gives it away. You know what I mean? It's match practice. He needs to play more games. He needs to play, but how can you play more games if you're not playing? It's a difficult situation.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned a few times this season, the wingers in particular, because they're not very consistent. They never seem to get a run of games.
Yeah.
So I do think that Murphy would benefit from 4 or 5 games starting and getting at least an hour.
Yeah.
I do think he would benefit from that because he's obviously got something about him to, for the club to pay 11 million for him.
No, definitely.
He's shown glimpses of his quality, but he just doesn't seem consistent.
Yeah.
And maybe he needs to run a games. Overall, poor from Cardiff. Can't be performing like that really. But
but now, side they've got a game. They've got another game which they don't need and they don't really want. You know what I mean? You've got a long trip up north, all the way to Carlisle, a long trip. You know what I mean? On a midweeker, and the opportunity probably of an upset which you don't want. You don't want to be stuck with that. You know what I mean? You'll find out today. You know what I mean? It could end up being a worse result if you get a decent draw now, and then you don't end up seeing the replay through because it's a tough one. Do you take your strongest side to Carlisle, to Brunton Park, or you know what I mean, or have you got, or does the following Saturday become a bigger game because it's a league game and you've just beat Swansea and it's a bigger football match?
Well, last thing I'll say on Cardiff is one of the few things which Harris did say in his initial sort of press conferences and first few weeks, which encouraged me, was that he bigged up the academy. He talked about the players in the academy and he said he would play them. He hasn't really. Now, he's had every opportunity to, in my opinion, with the Christmas festive period where you're playing game, and also the performances haven't been very good. So there's no excuse for him not to have played some of those players.
Yeah.
There you got Cameron Cox, could have played a league game. You could have had Waite. There's a couple of others. There's players there which, you're really telling me that some of those players who are in front of him are keeping him out of the first team. Are they performing to that higher level that can't give the odd youngster a go in the league?
Yeah,
it's difficult, isn't it? Because you don't want them to have a terrible performance, and if they, for instance, Cameron Cox or a defender plays in that 6-1 defeat to QPR, it could cause more issues than than what.
I know, but then you got to see it from the young lads' point of view, Cyan. You know what I mean? That Cameron played against Luton, got beat 3-1, didn't play the game after.
Yeah.
He's played against Carlisle, drew 2-2, got brought off.
So he feels like he's getting the blame.
Will he play Saturday? Very doubtful. You know what I mean? Will he be on the bench? Extremely doubtful. You know what I mean? With some of the players that you've already mentioned defensively. You know what I mean? So will he feel it's his fault? You know what I mean? Unless we don't know what's getting said in the house. You know what I mean? So,
no, of course.
But it's just it's difficult for a young player to take that he's played 2 games. There's been 5 goals in the 2 games, and he's not progressed and played anymore apart from 2 cups. And if the only way he's going to get a game is playing in the cup, then we need to progress so he can get more games.
Indeed. So obviously we spent a bit longer on Cardiff today because we was talking about them before we got into the game, mainly because we had so much interaction over the last couple of days with it. I wanted to, do those people a service of actually discussing what they were discussing with us on Twitter. Yeah. So, but we're open to discussing all teams from a championship or football. So send us tweets and we'll get that conversation going.
Yeah.
And we have the bonus or the pleasure, I suppose, extravaganza of we get to cover a Premier League team next because we don't always get to do that. So Chelsea 2, Forest 0.
Yeah, Sunday game. My biggest bugbear of the weekend side was sides who played lesser teams. Frank did make a few changes, but I thought again. Put a really strong side out. You know what I mean? He didn't really put many youngsters in. He had Kovacevic, Jorginho, and Barkley in midfield, and they just ran the show. You know what I mean? Straight away, you've got 3 players who can keep the ball, and then when you've got Hudson, Odoi, Batshuayi, and Pedro up front, you've always got a chance to create chances and score goals. And you know what I mean? The Chelsea probably needed a good start to settle themselves down, You know what I mean? Hudson-Odoi got an early goal, and then Bartley scored a good goal just on the half-hour mark. And Forest really didn't put a glove on them. They didn't get close to them. You know what I mean? And Forest liked the ball. Forest liked to create chances and have possession of the ball, but didn't really give themselves a foothold in the game and have an opportunity. And to be fair, he put his best side out. You know what I mean? Forest give it a good go. It's a one-off opportunity for Nottingham Forest to have a cup run, but you know, it was the worst possible draw for them side because Frank's obviously keen to win a trophy this year, so he wasn't gonna be beaten on his first game for Chelsea in the FA Cup as a manager at home. And you know what I mean, he wanted to put a mark on the game, and I thought he did so with some very good performances. And you know what I mean, and I think there's more to come from them. And the more we talk about the FA Cup, I think Chelsea could be one of the sides which could go all the way if he's got a squad of what he's got to pick from going forward. As long as the draws are quite kind to them.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll be up there. Hudson-Odoi is a really good player.
Extremely
like
talented.
But I've got to say, I think Ross Barkley looks back to his best.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent.
I
thought he was excellent. Yeah, I think he's confident. He wants the ball. He needs the ball. And I think at Everton, he was a little bit, you know what I mean, that the expectations were high, where he was a big fish in a little pond, where now he's, you know what I mean, he's now batting on with some world-class players, and, you know what I mean, he's probably found his level and his level for training, his level for games, and long may that continue, because it can only be good for him internationally, and it can help him kick on as a player, because you know what I mean, he'll be under good, excellent guidance from the manager, because he's a similar sort of player. You know, he's probably technically better than Frank, but he likes to get in the box and score goals, and exactly what the manager used to do as a player.
Yeah, indeed. So correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm way off the mark. I think Forest have got problems. The last month or two, I think they've really struggled to just do anything going forward. Yeah. Not creating the chances they were. You know, if you go back to maybe November time, we were talking about Lewis Grabham changing games and just scoring goals for fun. They were creating chances, and now they just look tepid. I'm not expecting them to rip Chelsea apart. Don't get me wrong, but they've had
a couple of more positive results over the last couple of weeks over Christmas time. But you know what I mean, they've lost a lot more games. You know that I think, especially in front of goal side, that's what's surprising me with the players they've got going forward. You know what I mean? What the ability they've got out wide, they're not creating and finishing the chances that they used to at the start of the season. And I think that's coming back to bite them on the backside a little bit. And that's obviously going to be worrying for the manager, because you know what I mean, it's a long season, and now they're playing catch up to some of the sides in the playoffs. You know what I mean, the Brentfords are like, and you know, because of what's going on. And I think that potentially might cause them a problem come the window, really, because they've got a big decision to make. You know what I mean? It's stick or twist, isn't it? You know that. You know what I mean? There's other sides dropping points in the league. You know what I mean? They found themselves behind Brentford. For me, they were comfortable in third. You know what I mean? Fulham were only a point behind them. Swansea were only a couple of points behind them. And it's the games coming up thick and fast. You know what I mean? Reading to play next in form. You know what I mean? Forest home form hasn't been great as well. So you know what I mean? They play Luton after that, and Luton will go to the City ground in fuller confidence. So it'll be an interesting time ahead for Nottingham Forest to see how things do go.
Yeah, I wonder if their squad's big enough. But then I look at their squad and they've got some superb players.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
And I just it's difficult to put your finger on it, isn't it?
Yeah, strength in depth. There's no point having 30 players if there's 10 who aren't good enough to play in certain positions. You know what I mean? You need strength in depth. So for me, you could have a squad of 18, strong 18. But at the same time, you need strength in depth.
Yeah, definitely. So next up, we got another Welsh team to cover. It was Millwall 3, Newport 0. Newport County, from just down the road from me.
Yeah, another one side. They just didn't get going. Didn't get going again. letting some ridiculous goals, especially from set pieces. You know, I mean, the biggest bugbear for me this season is in the Championship is corners, set pieces, and they must have been fully aware of Matt Smith, and he scores from a corner. You know what I mean? They give a penalty away, which Mahoney smashes in, and it's game over then. And second half really irrelevant. It's about keeping the score down, and I thought Tom Bradshaw scores an excellent goal after that. But you know what I mean? You just need to be. You just need to play the game, not the occasion. In a way, you know what I mean. It's like, I don't know. They went there with probably too much respect for a side who's playing well. You spoke about Gary Rowett earlier, and about how well they're playing. Yes, they are playing well, but at the same time, they're there for the taking. And Newport County last year had an excellent cup run. You know what I mean? They beat Middlesbrough. They played Leicester City live on TV. They made themselves a lot of money, and you know what I mean? They'll be very disappointed that they've got themselves knocked out.
They would have fancied Millwall, I think.
And things aside, you know what I mean? They had nothing to lose, but again, you know what I mean? There wasn't that many chances created. You know what I mean? I was expecting them to go there and have a real go. You know what I mean? I know you picked someone you fancied as an upset. I picked someone who I fancied as an upset. And I couldn't have been further from the truth. Yeah. I think mine got beat 4-0. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
I think mine was,
you know, I mean, these teams. But at the same time, so you don't know what's being said in house. You know what I mean? That Newport have got an opportunity to do something in the league. So our managers having the same thought process in the Championship and in League Two than they are in the Premier League. That we're not going to win this FA Cup. So let's rest a couple of players.
I do think that has filtered down over the last few years to Championship League One. You know,
well, Jared Bowen side. Jared Bowen was sub on Saturday. That says it all for me. Yeah. It's Hull City's. You know what I mean? So Hull City see the Championship as more important than the FA Cup. And
you can understand it, but you know, by all accounts, like for Newport.
But not if you get beat, Si. Not if you get beat as a football supporter. How do you feel?
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? So it's
a
tough one, isn't it? Yeah, it's a tough one because you know what I mean. I look at there was a good stat on Oxford United. Oxford United scored the most goals out of all leagues, and they beat Hartlepool 4-1 in the FA Cup on Saturday. Obviously, they played Man City, didn't they, in the EFL Cup a few weeks ago in the quarter final before Man City progressed through, whatever it was, and you get a little bit of a taste for it, Si. You get a reputation for being a cup upsetting side, and fans expect it, and it's how you generate your money. Your budget can be paid for by a couple of good performances. Yeah,
spot on, mate. So yeah, I think Newport will be disappointed, but ultimately, you know, no one expected them to go and beat Millwall. Millwall were on fire.
Yeah, totally agree.
Recently. And what a job Gary Rowett's doing, which goes to show that it wasn't the Millwall players that was the problem. Just not to go back to Harris and blaming. I'm not blaming Harris for everything, but the point being, Rowett hasn't signed anyone since Neil Harris left. He's doing with the same players, but he's playing a different style of football. He's playing different tactics, and he's coming up with the goods.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Goes to show if you get the right man in,
totally agree. Yep,
they can work wonders. Next up is my favourite match of the whole round.
It's a great game, yeah.
Really enjoyed it. And that was Watford 3, Tranmere 3.
Great game.
It
had everything. It had everything. It had changes for Watford. It had some fresh players coming on to prove a point to Nigel Pearson. It had some great goals. It had some mistakes, some VAR calls, some awful defending, like you say. The first goal was Del Bashira. I thought was a great strike from the edge of the box, but he was given an age to take a touch and bend it in the corner from his left foot. And I just thought, I don't know, I expected the defender to come out and fly and put his body on the line and hope for the best and stop it. But and then probably the strangest goal of the weekend for me, that I saw Tranmere trying to play like Barcelona out from the back.
Jesus.
And
I saw that and I thought of you straight away, where we've talked about Derby and all the different clubs trying to do this.
Well, do you know what, Si? When I seen it, And it wasn't the first mistake because they got away with it. It wasn't the second one because they got away with it. It was then they still tried to do it, which makes me think, Si, that it's not the players, it's the manager who's telling them to do it. So, yes, it's the players' fault because, you know what I mean? But if the players can't do it, don't make them do it. You know what I mean? I felt sorry for some of them looked like a fish out of water. They were trying to keep the ball against these good players, and then they make 3 mistakes, and all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Chalobah's there, sorry, just to curl it in, and you know what I mean? You can't overplay like that. You know what I mean? You can't overplay. And then I thought Pereira's was a good finish, excellent play by Success and Andre Gray, and it just give him a 3-0 lead at half time, and you just think. You think game over straight away. You don't think the magic of the FA Cup at all, and then VAR came on at half time. I think for Tranmere substitution, which is great, and because on another day, Si, you know, let me start there. The first goal was an awful decision by the linesman, an absolute awful decision by the linesman, and which makes me. I was so glad that it wasn't at Tranmere because that goal would have been chalked off, and you would never have got a comeback, but. The linesman made a decision. He got it horribly wrong. But then this probably drives me mad what I'm just about to say, that then linesmen are just flagging about anything because if he has made a mistake, he knows he's going to get rectified and sorted out by somebody else. And, you know what I mean? So his position is redundant now. He might as well not be there.
Well, interestingly, I don't know if it was the Tranmere manager. There was one of the lower league managers said in his post-match interview that, basically said that the linesmen, they don't want linesmen and referees from the Premier League because they're used to not making decisions because they'll leave it to VAR, which, that didn't really spring to mind. Like, I know we've talked about like linesmen and
I totally agree.
I totally agree. Like, why would you want those referees, even though they're supposedly the best ones in the country?
Yeah.
They're used to just kind of...
Yeah. But then saying that side, while we're on about VAR, I'll just transfer it over to another game, that the Crystal Palace derby game, that the ref went over to the camera at the side of the pitch and saw a headbutt by Mihalovic or whatever he's called against Huddleston, and got himself a red card. So you know what I mean. Over the weekend, it's hopefully proved to a lot of people that it can be used better if you just trust your own judgment and trust your own decisions, because you don't want someone else saying it's a red card. All you need somebody to say is, I think you need to look at that again. And then you go over, look at it again. You've missed it because you can't see everything and you don't know what you're looking at the time. You know what I mean? You can't be everywhere. You know what I mean? We're all human beings. We're all making mistakes. It's a game where everything's happening. You know what I mean? It's an FA Cup game as well, but you know what I mean? But VAR got that decision right at the Watford game. The offside. Jennings got the goal, the first goal, and then awful goalkeeping again. So it was Bachmann who came in, trying to catch a ball. So you know what I mean? Just get something on it and punch it away. You don't have to catch. You don't have to. You know what I mean? Especially
I disagree with that, but do you know why I disagree with that? Because they do those drills catching under pressure. And he wasn't even under pressure anyway. But they catch like hundreds of those per day. Yeah. And I think it is, to quote one of my favourite phrases, piss poor to drop that, and he was not even under pressure.
No, but he'd gone past the attackers and then dropped it the other way. It didn't make sense to me what he was trying to do. I don't know what was going through his head. You know what I mean?
He's let his side down.
Yeah, well, the thing is, though, you've got the VAR decision there, you've got a goalkeeper mistake there, and then you've got another VAR call, which I don't know. You couldn't see from the picture. You know what I mean? So
how can you have VAR and the camera doesn't cover that part of the pitch?
No, well, I know. And things are, you've got to give it then, haven't you? You've got to give it, because if there's any doubt in your mind, you know what I mean. You've given the referee an easy call. You know what I mean? You dive in the box eye. It's, you know what I mean? It is what it is. And I thought Mullins' penalty was excellent. I thought he smashed it in. You're under pressure as well. It's 3-2. You know what I mean? FA Cup away to get your side a replay at Prenton Park. But then I thought it was absolutely awful by Pereira to do what he did. You know what I mean? Just kicking out. You know what I mean? Because it was just so petulant. You know what I mean? You're 3-0 up. You're drawing 3-3. there's no, you know what I mean. It was a little kick, but you don't need to do it. So you just look stupid. You got yourself a 1-game ban, which I thought he did all right, by the way, going forward. Scores himself a good goal, and now he's going to miss a Premier League game. All for having a kick out.
Stupidity, just
ridiculous.
frustration, wasn't it?
Mm.
But like, I thought it was a penalty. I got to say, but I was absolutely astounded that the camera didn't cover.
I couldn't believe it.
Part of the area. I just couldn't. I was just
couldn't
like,
believe it.
What is going on?
Yeah, couldn't believe it.
And yeah, like you say, the kick out, the defending in this game from both teams was dreadful.
Oh, absolutely disgusting.
Embarrassing.
Absolutely disgusting. But I think sometimes, though, in the FA Cup, you get, well, not just in the FA Cup. Sometimes when we see it in Championship, that you get drawn into it. You know what I mean? And I think the way that Chammy defended, you know what I mean? It just the Watford just seemed to get brought into it themselves, and their defending was just as bad as Chammy was in the first half.
Yeah, they were. They just, I don't know what went on with them at half time. They just went to pieces, really. Like,
and I'm surprised as well, you know, because Nigel Pearson, you know what I mean? He said it at half time. He was he said it probably at the end. He was very blunt that the players were good enough to see the game out, but obviously they weren't good enough, and obviously I need to address that. And you know what I mean? He made a lot of changes, and I thought Success was excellent. I thought Gray did really well up top, led the line really well. I thought Pereira's got a good goal. Chalobah, I like him anyway, but you can't defend like that side in any league, never mind against their League Two side, because they're going to bombard you, because that's what they've got. They'll put the balls long forward long, and you know what I mean, they'll keep doing it, you know what I mean, and they got the rewards in the end.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Nigel Pearson, I've got to say, but there we go. Okay, so we'll just cover the other games. Obviously, we can't go through all the games.
No,
we'll be here all day. So next up, we got Bristol and Shrewsbury.
Do you know what, I thought this was absolutely nailed on. It was obviously one of the early games, and I thought Bristol City, I mean, they got the early goal from a good header, and then second half, I thought Shrewsbury were absolutely excellent. You know, I mean, they really came into the game and showed Bristol City absolutely zero respect, which I think is the only way to do it in the FA Cup. And got themselves a well-deserved equaliser from Goss from the edge of the box, hit the post and went in, and probably could have nicked it in the end. But for a team like Shrewsbury against Bristol City, they probably wanted the draw to go into the replay, a potential game for Sky or TV, BT, whatever it may be, because Shrewsbury at home, they'll probably get a sellout. Bristol City will probably take a few fans with them as well, and because it's not too far, is it? I know it's cross country, and it could be a little money maker for them, because if they do get knocked out, they've made a little bit of money. If they manage to get through, then they're laughing all the way at the bank, so to speak. But decent game, and I thought Shrewsbury deserved to get something from it.
Yeah, proper FA Cup game, wasn't it? And they deserved
guts and thunder. And
didn't think Bristol were great, really.
No,
but
you know, they've struggled. The struggle side recently, you know what I mean. Lee Johnson's lost his cool the last few weeks, and you know what I mean. So you know what I mean. I think he was expecting, you know what I mean, probably a tough game. So and he certainly got that, and you know what I mean. He's not out of the woods yet, because his side aren't delivering the performances and the results that he needs to move forward.
Yeah. I think Bristol could have done without a replay, really, but
yeah,
is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to just suck it up with the FA Cup, and you just got to do it. And if you get those games where you just got a team, you're playing a team from a lower league, and they're just they're not as good as you technically, but on that day they just got a bit more about them. Yeah,
exactly. Totally agree.
So I've gone off the screen, mate. Sorry. Next one, Brighton, Sheffield Wednesday.
Brighton, Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah. I thought Brighton were excellent first half. So I've seen the extended highlights of this, and I thought Mapai first half could have had a couple of goals. Thought Sheffield's goalkeeper Dawson, it was this week, changed them over. I thought it was excellent. I thought made a few really good saves. Fletcher led the line again. Obviously back from illness. I thought Adam Reach's free kick was excellent, very clever. You know what I mean? To hit it low through the wall is a skill in itself. You know what I mean? Because when I was watching it, I knew he'd scored. But when it was a free kick, I thought he's going over the wall here, but to go through players is a skill in itself as well, because it catches goalkeepers out.
It was the perfect angle, to go over the wall as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
So
was.
I
But I
was
think
the
that's what the
same.
keeper was going to do. He took a step, and then all of a sudden he couldn't get down. He certainly couldn't get down. So he went through a couple of defenders and attackers.
Yeah, goalkeepers gambling, see, on free
Yeah.
kicks. Can't do it.
No.
Got to watch the ball, says the daddy goalkeeper. But yeah, I thought Adam Reach, excuse me, was superb. And I know we've sung his praises a lot this year.
Yeah.
I thought he was, against the Premier League team, I thought he was just run the game. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Brentford versus Stoke.
Brentford versus Stoke. Why can't I find this one?
Don't know. Did I just make that up?
No, there we go. Here we go. I just found it on there. That I look at this game side as well. You know what I mean? That Brentford, they've been flying, haven't they? You know what I mean? And they made a whole lot of changes. Stoke again made some changes. Changed the goalkeeper, because I thought Jack Butland's been excellent. And then didn't put Federici in, which I found was quite interesting. Put a young, well, he's not even young. Adam Davies he put in, 27. So, which I found really interesting, because they've had the goalkeeping issues this year, and I thought Federici's been excellent when called upon. So when Jack Butland, for me, he's turned his season around, turned his form around, but didn't play. But I think their concentration has got to be first and foremost on the league. I think that's why they did make a few changes. And Brentford got the goal just before half time, and it never really looked like a game which either wanted to get into. You know what I mean? For both, for different reasons. Brentford are sitting in a position in the league where I think they'd have probably taken a defeat, knowing that they can hopefully catch Leeds or a West Brom, but. Which is going to be a tough ask. And Stoke obviously want to try and get out of the relegation dogfight, and don't want to knock the confidence too much, but at the same time you want to save your good results for the league and to get out the mire that they're in. And I thought Brentford probably just shaded it with the better chances. I thought Stoke had a couple of half chances, but I think Brentford deserved it with the goal that they scored.
Yeah, I'm worrying about Stoke. I got to be honest.
It's the inconsistency side for me. They're so inconsistent. It's absolutely scary.
Like we've said numerous times, the league table don't lie. We've said no one's too good to go down.
No.
We're at the start of the season, or in the early part of the season, we thought it was going to be Huddersfield who was going to be the ones who were going to kind of just keep going and going. But Stoke just cannot get a run together of games.
They win a game, and then they go on blow it with a game which probably you expect them to go and win. You know what I mean? Because it's confidence side. I know they wouldn't wanted another game, but you know what I mean. You go into a game wanting to keep your confidence going, win, and unfortunately that's not happening at the minute. And you know what I mean. They've got some big games coming up, because you just said it there. They're not too big and too good to go down, because you know what I mean. There's someone's going to go on and run down there. And, you know what I mean, Huddersfield look like they're getting themselves out of it. Middlesbrough obviously on a great run, so they need something similar to get themselves out of it.
Yep. Next up, we got the All-Championship tie between Charlton and West Brom, with Kenneth Sahor getting the winner.
Kenneth Sahor got himself a winner. I'd more or less say this to be Charlton's reserves against West Brom's reserves, because they both made ridiculous amount of changes. The best thing for probably West Brom is he changed his formation. He played two up front, so he played Charlie Austin and Kenneth Sahor, and obviously Sahor got himself a goal. I thought Charlie Austin was excellent again. Chris Brunt played on one wing, Edwards played on the other. You know what I mean? So four players who aren't playing that regular at the minute. But yeah, deserved to win. I'm feeling really sorry for Lee Bowyer at the minute. You know what I mean? He obviously made a lot of changes, and I don't really sees the FA Cup as a priority. His league and to stay in the Championship is Lee's main priority, and that needs to happen for him as a manager and for the football club in general. But I don't know, you know what I mean? I said at the start of the show side that you make that many changes, you know what I mean? As a football fan, you're going to the game expecting and looking forward to a hopeful FA Cup run and getting a Premier League side at home so you can enjoy a nice game and a nice day out maybe in the future. And it doesn't happen with the teams that are getting selected. And you know what I mean? I'm looking at the Charlton team now. You know what I mean? You've got your centre forward Josh Davison, young boy. up front. You've got Henry, Aaron Henry, another young boy. You know what I mean? That makes his debut. Yeah, it's like the managers and teams are not bothered if they get knocked out of the FA Cup. Where as a player, I'd be distraught if that was my club and we were getting knocked out. You know what I mean? It was always magical for me, the FA Cup, as a fan, as a young boy growing up, and especially as a player. I've got some great memories as playing as a player. So
yeah, I'm the same. And that was one of the things which disappointed me a bit about the Cardiff attendance. Was I remembered like third round of the cup. I remember some massive games for Cardiff, like Nathan Blake scoring and against Man City, and the Leeds game, and all these different FA Cup memories. And I know, I understand the Carlisle are not the biggest draw, but I find it a bit disappointing that teams don't take it more seriously. However, I completely get it for Charlton. They've got a small squad, and they've got to stay up. Do you think Lee Bowyer was distracted by the Cardiff speculation?
There's something signed. There's something that obviously which it's just not working out for him at the minute, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's coincide with obviously the injury to Live Taylor. You know what I mean? That the form dipped once. You know what I mean? Once he got injured a little bit. You know what I mean? He was their talisman. Everything happened, but I don't think it can help Si. Because if he was all, you don't know how close he was to get the job signed. If he was all set and all ready to go mentally, he's not there in mind or body. You know what I mean? So you just never know. Si, you don't know what's happening behind closed doors. You know what I mean? They've just been taken over as well. So is he looking over his shoulder thinking that they're going to bring a big name manager in who's going to spend loads of money and I'm not going to keep my job anymore and I could have been at another club and now I'm going to lose my job? I hope he doesn't, because he deserves all the accolades what he's got for putting them in a position where they are in the Championship. Never mind, you know what I mean, for what he did last season in League One. So he deserves a lot more time than a lot of other people.
Spot on, mate. I think I said I texted you, didn't I, when the speculation was going on, and I had been told that he'd basically been offered the Cardiff job, and then it was looking like he will, it was looking pretty much done, and then all of a sudden they'd announced Neil Harris, and I said to you, "It's like that seems weird." Because
I didn't get it.
The person who had told me that would know, and yes, it was odd. Maybe he felt like that too.
Well, you just don't know, do you? You know what I mean? It can knock you. You know what I mean? It's like pulling the rug from under somebody's feet. You know what I mean? You don't know how late in the day that was done with the deal. So and whose decision that was, and it can leave a bit of taste in your mouth. Really, can't it sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, if you think you've got a job and then suddenly someone tells you haven't, or you find out because someone else has got it, could potentially, allegedly.
Yeah, it's going to affect you.
Of course it is. Next up, Fulham with the I wouldn't call it a shock really, but an upset.
Yeah,
Fulham beat Villa.
I think I would have called it an upset side if it was Aston Villa's strongest side. You know what I mean? But they've obviously got bigger fish to fry. They've got a league which is far more important than the FA Cup, and you know what I mean. The way to make it more important is to give a Champions League place for the winner of the FA Cup. Then teams probably would take it a little bit more serious. But Villa made I think a full side worth of changes, which is obviously the manager's prerogative. He can do what he wants. You know what I mean? Fulham didn't play their best team. He didn't have Mitrovic didn't play, but one thing I will say, Si, the 2 goals from Fulham were absolutely outstanding. Knockhart's first goal was excellence, and to think that would be beaten later on, which for me I thought Harry Arter's goal was absolutely outstanding. Harry Arter came on and a minute later on scores an absolute worldie, which is great. And I thought Villa were okay. They created some good chances. I think they probably deserved something out of the game because of the quality of Fulham's goals. You know what I mean? It takes obviously something of the 2 fantastic goals to win the game, and you know what I mean. Obviously Villa now have got to stay up. You know, they've got a lot of injuries. They've got a couple of Tom Heaton, who I think did his knee and is going to be out for the rest of the season for the year. So they've got some big decisions to make now. Yeah,
I've been very impressed with Villa this year. Particularly Jack Grealish and the other one, what's his name? John McGinn.
Yeah, here's a question for you then, Si. So Aston Villa captain, Jack Grealish. an opportunity to, I don't know, what, in 5 games' time in the FA Cup to walk your team out of Wembley, potentially lifting the FA Cup, and you're not in the starting 11. How do you feel? You're not even in the bench. How do you feel?
Me personally, I'd be pissed off because I'd want to play. I don't know how these footballers and stuff, how they think. You would probably know better than me, but like, to me, I'd want to play every game because it's a short career.
I've never known to rest 11 players. You know what I mean? Did they all go to the game? Did they all go and watch the game, or did they go on holiday for the weekend? Did they fly over to? Because for me, Si, right, if you're having a rest, you're sat at home with your feet up. Yes. Are you telling me that all of those players who didn't play sat at home and rested up and had a massage and looked after themselves, or did they get on a plane, go to Euro Disney, go to Dubai, go and get some sun for the weekend,
go to Magaluf all together?
Well, do you know what I mean? So team spirit, team bonding, yeah, that like it just doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's difficult.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
If they don't win next Saturday, what was the point of it all?
No, and the thing is, when you change 11 players from a team, it's very difficult to get. Even if the 11 players you bring in are great players, it's very difficult to get any type of like fluidity or any type of just good patterns to your game because they've not played. All those players have been playing 20 minutes here and there off the bench, if that. And then suddenly you're asking them to play against the Fulham side who've got the likes of Knockaert and
Premier League players,
top players, Mitrovic, or who was the other one? Harry Arter.
The Fulham side, they were absolutely full of them. Inundated with good players, and you know what I mean. For me, I don't see that as an upset. You know what I mean. Last season, Fulham with the Premier League side and Villa with a Championship side. So you know what I mean. They've just switched this year. They could switch back next year. So you're just passing in the wind at the minute. Those kind of teams.
Passing in the wind. Did you say passing?
What did that? What ships in the night? Ships in the night.
I wasn't sure if you said piston in the wind. Next up is the Palace game, but I've just gone off it.
Well, we spoke about the VAR decision.
Palace Derby.
Palace Derby, the VAR decision about the headbutt on Tom Huddleston. Derby looked like they turned things around a little bit with the inclusion of Mr. Rooney sitting in midfield, new captain. You know what I mean? Change of fortunes around of a team, which overnight, it just baffles me. I don't get it. But when you've got players like Chris Martin in the team, you know what I mean, and you've got someone like Tom Lawrence and you've got Wayne Rooney, Tom Huddleston. You know, I mean, these kind of players. I'm not surprised that they can turn it around. It's can they be more consistent? You know that team has not changed just because they've got one little player in the side. It's just it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? That Palace made a host of changes. They didn't play Wilfried Zaha, which is obviously a big. He's the best player. You know what I mean? He creates all the problems. You know what I mean? That Roy Hodgson's not stupid. He knows that. What's more important, the Premier League, of course. But I wouldn't even say it was a massive upset again. You know what I mean? You see on Twitter and you say, "Oh, Derby are beating Crystal Palace, Championship side." You know what I mean? They're down the bottom of the rubbish. You know what I mean? Derby have been the distance between the leagues. There's probably about 6 places over the last couple of years because Palace are always down the bottom and Derby have always been at the top. So it's not a massive upset one little bit. And you know what I mean? Derby obviously won through the week with 10 men against Charlton, and then they won again. So they're going into the game with loads of confidence. And Chris Martin scores goals. I thought it was a very good finish, tidy finish, and obviously you've got 2 very good midfielders there who just bossed the game with loads of experience. So for me, it's not an upset at all. But you know what I mean? Fair play to Derby. They go marching on the next round, and Crystal Palace focus on the most important thing, which is the Premier League.
Yeah, they got to. Palace can't afford. They can't afford to be going down.
No.
Does it say a lot about the Derby players that they needed Wayne Rooney to get their season going? Or does it say more about the manager?
I think it probably just us side, to be honest. I think it probably shows that they needed a little bit of leadership on the pitch. You know what I mean? Which obviously Tom Huddleston then looks a bit silly. You know, for example, but maybe Richard Keogh was more of a leader than what people think, because obviously with him missing. So, you know what I mean? Maybe he brought a leadership quality, not obviously the footballing ability of Wayne Rooney, but he had other qualities which got the lads going on the pitch. So, maybe he's a bigger miss than what we believe him to be.
Yeah, possibly. He organised the parties.
Yeah.
Next up, Preston 2, Norwich 4. Great game.
Yeah, great game, but it's a surprise for me because, you know what I mean, I thought Norwich, obviously they've got massive issues in the Premier League, and they'll see this as an easy way out, and I made a couple of changes, but when you're making changes, Si, and they work out, and you've got players who've got a point to prove, then that's a different kettle of fish, you know what I mean? Because every player wants to play. You know, every player should want to play. Sorry, you know what I mean. That's the way that I look at it. You know what I mean. So when you've got a lad who's wants to prove a point and comes on and scores a hat trick in Ida, then you've got an opportunity because you know what I mean. That he got himself a hat trick and scores very good goals as well. He scored one from 40 yards. Scored himself a penalty and. So should be extremely proud of himself. But I thought Norwich were excellent. I thought some of the football they played and one-touch football, through balls, pace. They had it looked like they had a freshness and a way of doing it. You know what I mean? This lad has got a hat trick, 18 years old. You know, so if he could put himself up top with obviously the prolific goal scorer who's scoring all their goals in the Premier League. You know what I mean? Mr. Pucky. Then they've obviously then who knows what might happen.
Well, if I was Adam at Ida, I'd be very disappointed if I wasn't in the squad and in the starting 11.
If he doesn't start on Saturday, there's something wrong. 100%. You know what I mean? The manager's got to find space for him. You've got to reward a performance like that. You know what I mean? You can't. You know what I mean? His first finish I thought was excellent. His second finish was outstanding from 40 yards after a clearance from the goalkeeper, and then he got himself a penalty. So, you know, I thought he should be extremely proud of the way he did. I thought Preston carried on after being 3-0 down. Got themselves a couple of decent goals. Billy Borden scored the first and set the second up. I thought was excellent. But yeah, I thought Norwich had far too much for Preston, who were on the slide a little bit, Si. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I told you so to everybody who's listening, because it's not nice to see teams on the slide, especially the way that how well they started. You know, because if they fizzle out, it'll just be they'll end up finishing mid-table and they'll still look still make me look stupid. So I can't win either way. So I think I'd prefer them to carry on and get in the playoffs and then be made to look really stupid.
Yeah, same here. And they were playing some lovely stuff as well. I think their squad's just not big enough.
Yeah, I
to
agree,
accommodate
Si.
everything and all the games and the amount of games they've had. But yeah, I thought they did well to stay in the game.
Yeah. Also, Si, with that though, what do you do? Do you go and spend X amount of money in the window to try and push on for the rest of the season, or are you just happy to finish where you finish? I know Alex Neil will want to push on and bring in players and want to get in the playoffs and hopefully make the Premier League, but the chairman and the manager thinking on those same lines are two different animals. So it's be a different kettle of fish, that conversation.
Well, if he thinks like we did at the start of the season, he probably will be happy to just
let it slide. Yeah.
Let us see out the season, stay up comfortably. Yeah. And then the final game of our coverage was Rotherham 2, Hull City 3.
Great game, Si. Great game. Local derby. Had everything. Last minute winner. Sending off. Hat trick from was it Tom Eaves?
Tom Eaves, yeah.
Yeah, Tom Eaves got himself a hat trick and a good hat trick as well. I thought he was outstanding. But when you've got two players to come off the bench in Grzycki and Jared Bowen, when you're 2-1 down, you've got an opportunity, so haven't you? You know what I mean? That the manager obviously thought that he had enough quality in his squad to see Rotherham off, but the game didn't go the way that they thought at half time. They were 2-1 down just before half time. They scored just before half time, but obviously Thompson got himself a red card, and rightly so. But then the second half is a different kettle of fish when you've got those kind of players to come off the bench and And then you equalise straight away. You know what I mean? More or less. Tommy scored after 66 minutes, and you brought him on after the hour, and you keep knocking on that door, and the longer the game was going to go, you could probably see a winner, and it was always going to be Hull. And you know what I mean? That's what the FA Cup's all about for me. You see teams scoring in the last minute, and you see fans running on the pitch. It's just that's what it is for me. That's the magic of the FA Cup, and you know, and that's what I want to see all the time, because it's the passion, and that's what the FA Cup's about. It's an all sellout, sold out stadium. You know what I mean? It's not a massive stadium, the New York Stadium, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You want to see fans running on the pitch. You want to see red cards. You want to see guts and thunder and all sorts in one game. And you know what I mean? And when there's 5,000 people there, so you don't get anything happening, because nothing gets excited. Even a bad tackle just gets forgotten about, or an incident gets forgotten about. So when there's 12,000 fans there, you know what I mean, and everyone wants blood from each player, you know what I mean? It happens all the time.
Yeah, spot on, mate. I you know, at the end of the day, Grzycki and Bowen were both in both of our team of the years for the whole of the 2019, which says everything. And when you bring those quality of that level on, you know, Rotherham were always going to struggle in the final minutes, because they had worked so hard. They were tired, and they were running out of steam. But I thought they did very, very well, Rotherham.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll finish off now with some questions and our 2 for 2s. So for our 2 for 2s, we'll start with the ups. This is where myself and Andy pick 2 players or teams who've had a nightmare, and 2 players or teams who've had a blinder. So we'll start with the ups, mate. Who's you got first?
My first one, I've gone for success for Watford. It just is all around attacking play. I thought he was outstanding. He set 2 goals up. He just always wanted the ball. You know, I've seen him a couple of times on Match of the Day, and I only get glimpses, but it was extended highlights of the game I watched, and I thought he was just outstanding. You know what I mean? You can only play against the players you're playing against, but I thought he always wanted the ball. He was just a different kind of flair player, and I was just excited to watch him.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that, mate. I've got Adam Ider for Norwich, 18 years old.
I was going to have him,
Hat-trick, 3 very good goals, and I thought his all-round performance was very good as well. His touch, his link-up play, his runs in off the ball, all good, all excellent.
Yeah,
so he had to be in there.
I totally agree. Well, we just praised him after what he did. My second one, I've gone for. It was a toss-up of worldly goals, and I've gone for Harry Arter's. And the reason behind I've gone for Harry's is because he was left footer. He'd only just come on the pitch, so you know what I mean. To hit a strike like that, and you could see from his celebration how pleased he was, but also how shocked he was that it flew in the top corner. So you know what I mean. It's very rare you score goals like that, so you have to celebrate like that and enjoy it. And for it to happen against a Premier League side in the FA Cup, I think is sometimes more special.
Yeah, spot on. I went for Adam Reach of Sheffield Wednesday. Absolutely outstanding for the whole game. He completely ran the game against the Premier League team. He dominated in possession. He was good off the ball as well. He worked hard, and obviously he scored a free kick which won the game, won his team the match with his performance.
Yeah. Great shout.
Downs, this is where it could get a bit interesting, a bit testy.
Yeah.
So who you got for the first one, mate?
Right, I've gone for Connor Ripley, the Preston goalkeeper, for the second goal. So it was a mistake, which just wriggled under his body. You know what I mean? I know Connor really well from Middlesbrough days. I used to idolise his dad, which is Stuart Ripley, ex-Blackburn winger, Middlesbrough winger. So Connor Ripley for just a mistake, because that was the killer goal, the second one. I thought it was excellent for the third one when Ida hit it from 40 yards, because he came out, read the situation, but the second goal, which wriggled underneath him, you could see the anguish on his face and how disappointed he was, because that was the killer goal for me.
Yeah, it's just one of those nasty ones, isn't it? So I've gone for this Carlisle striker who went down for the penalty versus Cardiff, because I just think it's an embarrassment. I unfortunately couldn't find his name anywhere, but
I've got his name. Do you want it?
Yeah, I do, because I want to shame him.
Bridge.
Carlisle striker Bridge. Shameful. Embarrassing. You should go home and think about what you've done.
Give your head a shake.
That's it. Give your head a wobble.
Give your head a wobble.
What you got next, mate?
My final one, I've gone for general. I've gone for just teams playing weekend sides because it just devalues the FA Cup. You know what I mean? I'm a massive advocate of the FA Cup. I used to watch. I'm going back in the day. You know what I mean? All the followers will know exactly what I'm on about. St Greavesy started at 9 o'clock on FA Cup final day, and we watched every single goal from every single game all the way through the day. Teams having the breakfast, I think we watched, and teams travelling to the FA Cup final, and it just made it all magical. And it made the third round and maybe the first round even more magical. As a player, I loved it. You know what I mean? I've played in non-league football where we started in the first qualifying round. I played in the first round of the FA Cup. I played in the third round of the FA Cup. I've played in quarter-final of the FA Cup. And it's just absolutely magical. I scored in the FA Cup for Cardiff. I'm from Middlesbrough. And it's just, I love the competition. It's been very kind to me and things. But teams have just massively devalued it. And I don't see the point. If teams aren't going to take it serious, you might as well just not bother entering it and just let teams who want to take it seriously have it, because it's the annoyance that, for example, if a side gets all the way to the quarter-final, semi-final and start putting the best side out, that's just unfair. You know what I mean? Because
spoils it for everyone, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because then they start taking it seriously. But you know what I mean? If you're gonna like Liverpool put the kids out against Everton. I guarantee if you got to the quarter-final, semi-final, final at Wembley, that Mo Salah, Mane, Firmino, they'll all play up front. And it's all these kids who've got them there won't even get on the bench.
Yeah. It infuriates me, that does. So for my second down, I initially had the defences of Watford and Tranmere, just because I thought they were both quite embarrassing the way they defended. They were just shocking. But I'm going to go for the fact that VAR isn't at all the grounds or isn't at all the games, because I think that brings up serious issues in the kind of what's the word? Not the safety of the results, but like I do think it makes it unfair.
It's just unethical. It's unethical, sir. It's not right. It's not. It's not
that's
right.
Unethical is the word. For instance, with Watford and Tranmere, if that's at Tranmere out.
Yep.
Because they wouldn't have got two of those goals. They wouldn't have had the penalty, and they wouldn't have had the first goal. And there was a couple of others who had penalties or decisions. There was Nottingham Forest, I think, had a penalty reversed with VAR, and all these different decisions which could go for one team and not for another team just because they are playing at home or away. That can't be right. So it's got to be all or nothing.
Yeah, totally agree.
Has to be the same for everyone. Otherwise, it's an embarrassment.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, so I changed that right at the last minute. All day I've had Watford and Tranmere as defenders, so they got off lightly. Okay, so let's get into some questions to finish off. You guys, you can send in your questions to facebook.com/ACEcastNation and twitter.com/ACEcast_nation, and you can leave them as comments on the YouTube videos. Who is the most naturally talented Cardiff player you ever saw?
Oh, Joel Ledley. Just simply because he was just very cultured. I think his left foot. He was just sickeningly naturally very good. You know what I mean? He just coasted through games. He didn't really seem to have like a lot of pace, but he seemed to have enough to get through games against certain individuals, and he just grew with confidence as things went by. And he obviously a fantastic footballer with tons of ability. He did it for his country, did it in the Champions League when he went to Celtic. He's done it on a bigger stage, and you know what I mean. I've never been surprised that Joe would go at the very top, because you can see it as a young kid that the crop of young players at the time were excellent, and Joe was right at the top of that.
Cool. And same question for Borough.
Best young player.
Most naturally talented.
Well, we had one came through, and he wasn't a local boy. So we had a boy who came in from Boca Juniors. We had called Carlos Marinelli. Carlos came, and I've never seen anything like it. He was dubbed the new Maradona, the new Juninho, and ability-wise, he was better than anything I'd ever seen before. I played a couple of reserve games with him, and I didn't even have to move. He set me up for a chance. You know what I mean? I think I scored something like 12 goals in 3 games because every run I made, he passed me the ball in such an inch perfect position. He'd score 5 himself, and he just made the game look really easy. He just made like football look just disgusting. When in the first team, did it again. Got himself a move.
What's his name?
Carlos Marinelli. Got himself a move back to Argentina, and I don't know if he played for Boca Juniors again, but he was just amazing.
I'm quite good with footballers' names, and I've never heard of him, so I'm going to
I'm
look
going.
him up.
Where am I going? About 98, 99 ish.
I'll look at that later.
No, 98, 99.
Emerson or Gaza?
Oh, it's got to be Gaza. Emerson had the lot. He did have the lot, but Gaza for me was a genius that, for whatever reason, however he did it, he just managed to get the best out of performances and the best out of other games, and made it so much fun at the same time. And yeah, Gaza for me.
Cool. Better drinker, Gaza or Merson?
Oh God, Paul Merson. It's got to be. It's got to be. I think Gaza loved to drink, but Merce could handle a lot more than anyone I've ever seen in my life.
An animal, wasn't he?
Yeah, beast. Yeah. For the size of him, because normally
he's really small, isn't he?
Yeah, what you get told is the bigger stature of man, you can handle more drink. But I think that went with practice. That the more he practiced, the better he got at something, and he got himself excellent at football because of practice. And I think he was a world-class drinker from all the practice he got.
Cool. How to save the FA Cup and Milk Cup, as we like to call it? Yeah.
How to save it? Whoa,
yeah.
How to save it?
Because people think it's being ruined.
Yeah, well, we've said it there. How to save it? For me, you've got to make the winners go in the Champions League, and for me, you've got to play your best side. And if you're not going to play your best side, I'm happy to put youngsters in, but there's got to be a cap on it for me. You can put a cap on how many changes you make from your previous Saturday, because it's got to be something for supporters, because I'll use an example that Rochdale played Newcastle. Newcastle made a host of changes. The Rochdale fans all bought their tickets 4 or 5 weeks ago when the draw got announced straight away, dead excited. Then all of a sudden they're watching a second string Newcastle side, and you know what I mean, to get a draw, it's not really that good a result because you're going down to St James's and Newcastle will probably put a stronger side out there, and Rochdale won't get nothing apart from a little bit of money. So for me, it devalues it a little bit, and it's it's the fans who are losing out.
Yeah, I got a question for you. How is Joe Linton a footballer?
That's a difficult. I thought he was awful on Saturday. I thought he was awful on Saturday. You know what I mean? I think that was one of his last opportunities to put in the performance, because Steve.
He looks like he can't be asked as well, which doesn't help.
I totally agree there. And he looked, every time he made a mistake, the camera went over to Steve Bruce, and Steve Bruce's frustration with Steve Agnew. You could just tell how frustrated he was, and
he was like going up a level, wasn't it? Each time.
And he was getting redder, and he was getting more angry and frustrated, and he knows the camera's on him, and you can't hide the fact. But at the end of the day, this lad's a professional footballer. He's on good money. He's cost a lot. He's cost a lot of money, and unfortunately, it's the way of the world. You've got to perform here, or you pay the ultimate price.
That's it. The league table don't lie.
Too right, you done.
In fairness, he cost them a fortune as well.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so there's 2 more questions, which I'm going to read now in a second. But guys, you can check out all our previous shows on youtube.com/ACEpodcastNation in video format and audio format at all the usual places: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, all those good stuff. Give us a thumbs up, share the videos, leave comments, get involved in the conversation on social media. Links to all the social media profiles will be in the description, as well as the charities that we mentioned earlier. So, no fake Geordie bingo lingo today. Ooh. But that will return next week.
Yeah.
So to finish off the show, it seems fitting. Tell us a story about Chris Barker that we may not know?
I just
Sorry
think
to put you on the spot, mate.
No, it's fine. No, don't worry. You know what I mean? Because it's been quite fitting, really. That probably the best footballing moment of my career is pretty obvious. The winning goal in the playoff final, and every photo that people have sent me is just one that I think that you forget, don't you? You know what I mean? I was lucky to celebrate my best footballing day with the man behind you that who just, you know what I mean, it meant so much to me that day. But then sometimes you forget about everybody else, and you know what I mean, that yes, I scored the goal, and yes, that I got the accolades, and people never forget. But Chrissy, along with the captain Carv and Willie and Neil Alexander and Spencer Pryor and Gabs and Andy Legg and Gary Croft and Reece Weston, etc. You know what I mean? They all played the part on that day, and you know what I mean, that and we played hard that day, but we partied even harder. And you know what I mean, I remember the game was a Sunday, wasn't it? And we went out, myself, Barks, Gethin Jones, a couple of other players, and went out on the Tuesday. And I think we stopped drinking. I'd probably say Friday, if I'm honest. I think I went back to Middlesbrough on the Friday or the Saturday morning. So it was a good party because we played hard side, but we partied even harder. And I think we deserved it after the season we'd had, and I think the weekend we'd had, because it took all out of players mentally and physically. And I think, you know what I mean, I think I remember some of the pictures that me and Barks are doing, celebrating, jumping around with each other. That was just us being us, and I'll never forget that. And I think seeing the photos, I think sometimes you forget. You know, I've seen the goals plenty of times, and I've seen the game plenty of times, but it's the after celebrations and stuff I haven't seen much of. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and to see us jumping around together, and the video of that, and especially the photos of me and him hugging each other, it just two northern lads just being mates and celebrating something what meant so much to us both. And yeah, I'll never forget it, and it made it special that I got to do it with him.